Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to you all, wherever you're joining us from around the world. And welcome to the second Waypoint session today, which is part of the Schmidt Ocean Institute 2023 Virtual Symposium, Setting the Course. As I mentioned earlier today, the reason we chose the title Setting the Course is because a lot of new things have happened at SOI in the last couple of years. And we wanted to give you some bearings on our directions as we sail into the future. So it's great to be back today, and I'm going to just actually introduce Alison Miller again, who will be our host and guide for the next for this session and the next one. So Alison, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thanks so much, Jyotika, for that welcome, and welcome to our participants. We're looking forward to answering some more questions that you have for us. I have a few logistical announcements before we get started. Please use the question and answer icon on the bottom of your Zoom screen to ask questions of Jyotika, and we'll do our best to get through all of the questions in the next 30 minutes. Closed caption has also been enabled, and you can turn it on or off using the icon on the bottom of your Zoom screen. As you heard when you joined, the session is being recorded and it will be posted on the SOI website within a few weeks for you to share with your friends and colleagues or visit any content that you wish to hear again or miss. We'll give our participants a few minutes to start typing in their questions for Jyotika, and we'll start with a few that have already been submitted via the online form. Jyotika, in the video that we all watched before joining, you mentioned targeted grants and resources available for people coming on board Falkor 2 but leaving dependents such as young children or elderly parents at home when they're coming on board. Could you talk more about what SOI offers?
Yes, that's a really good question, actually, Alison. And well, the reason we've been doing this and looking into this is because we look around and we know that there is a lack of diversity really in the marine sciences, and this is a mechanism by which to increase inclusivity. So we've been working on a variety of things throughout that have been seeded throughout everything we do at Schmidt Ocean Institute. And one of the barriers that we've heard from scientists who have children or elderly parents is it's difficult to leave them at home and go to sea. So we have a couple of avenues to attack this. One is, as you mentioned, offering those microgrants to those who sail on board to help alleviate the burden for those who are at home, staying at home, looking after dependents. And then the other way that people and scientists can participate if they've got families or elderly parents or other dependents is we actually have a very robust communication system on board Falkor 2, which means that we can really meaningfully engage with scientists who are in their offices or at home. And we actually did our first virtual cruise off Australia in 2020 during the pandemic, when no scientists, of course, could travel to the ship on Falkor. And so everyone was tuning in remotely, and it was really successful. And so we've continued in that vein and also have that as an opportunity. But beyond that, we've also been looking at how to broaden inclusivity in the marine sciences. And we've developed some partnerships that are really explicitly aiming at that. One is with the Marine Technology Society and IEEE, where we do support international student poster competitions in marine engineering and technology. And we're working with them now to see if we can have a targeted program to provide berths of opportunity for international and participants from parts of the world where we will be sailing. Another partnership that we have is with the National Geographic Society. And again, they are an organization that has a truly global reach with explorers from all over the world. And so again, where we're sailing, we will be partnering with them to bring some of their explorers who would like to work and do work in the ocean on board Falkor 2. So overall, we have a lot of things that are really targeted towards broadening the inclusivity and diversity in the marine science. Our expressions of interest has got a strong emphasis on local participation. So does our Births of Opportunity program. And we're going to talk about both of those more tomorrow in the symposium, of course. But the Births of Opportunity, when you think of inclusivity, it's also the types of backgrounds that come on board. And so we already know, we have scientists, we have those who develop technology, we have artists, we have students, but we're also expanding to include local traditional knowledge holders or local marine managers or policymakers. And then finally, actually, while I'm on the topic of inclusivity, if you don't mind, Alison, I want to also talk actually about what we're doing across with our other Schmidt entities, the Schmidt Family Foundation and 11th Hour Racing. We formed the Schmidt Ocean Coalition, and that has a very explicit goal of providing grants to organizations that address the lack of diversity and access into the marine fields through education-based programs. So I know that was a very long answer, and I threw a lot more in there than your original grant piece, but it's a pretty important topic for us.
It is. It's very important, and it's very important to SOI, as you mentioned. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about the expression of interest or the Births of Opportunity, I encourage you to tune in tomorrow, where there will be more details about that. And kind of piggybacking on some of that, what other support does SOI offer in terms of once a scientist has come on board?
Yeah, we do offer other sorts of support. So I mentioned this morning about open sharing of information and data is one of our core principles at SOI. So we do actually offer to pay for the publication of work in open access journals that come out of the cruises on board Falkor and now Falkor 2. We offer travel support to students to present the work that they've done on our vessel at conferences. And of course, we support artists and Births of Opportunity participants to travel to the vessel. And again, you'll hear more from that on that from Hannah and Carly tomorrow. And then we're also, again, in the spirit of inclusivity and broadening access to the ocean and open sharing of that kind of information, we're actually supporting microgrants for technology to schools or organizations in different parts of the world that where we are sailing that may not have the technology they need to view our live streams, so that the students can actually all participate and learn about the ocean that's just off their coastline and be a part of that process. So we have quite a few different avenues of providing support.
Excellent. It's great that we're able to help support scientists share their data and students share their outcomes, and also help the ship reach all of the corners of the expedition map that we have, not just in the ocean, but to those ashore also. Earlier today, you talked about the expression of interest process, and I know we are going to talk more about that tomorrow in greater detail. But we have a question about the deadline and what else is new in the process. Do you want to give us a little sneak peek for what we might hear more about tomorrow?
Of course, sure. Happy to. Yeah, so I'd mentioned that the expression of interest call now is a rolling process, so there's no actual deadline. You should submit your proposals, your expressions of interest when you are ready, and we will review them throughout the year. And we'll cover this, of course, in more detail tomorrow. But I say that, but there is one exception. There is actually one deadline in all of this, and that is for 2024, because that is next year, and we need enough lead time to be able to plan the operations, to seek permits, and to get ready to receive scientists on board. So the deadline for 2024 is May 15th for expressions of interest. So please do submit if you're interested in working on Falkor 2 in 2024. But you can still submit for further out years this year, and we will get back to you and review those this year as well. Another new feature though, and again, going back to your first question, actually just set this whole session off, the inclusion, the theme of inclusion. And that is that we've traditionally had written expressions of interest and proposals. We've now, we will now accept video submissions. So for those who don't have English as their first language, who may find it easier to do a PowerPoint presentation or draw on a whiteboard and video that and send that in or something, or pictorially or orally tell us what they are planning. We do have guidelines now for accepting video submissions for the expression of interest instead of the written one. We don't necessarily want both, we just want one or the other, but it does broaden who and how we communicate.
That's excellent to hear. I'm very much looking forward to our first video submission of an expression of interest. I think that will be really exciting, and I'm looking forward to that. Revisiting that theme of inclusion, we do have an audience question about how people might be able to apply for the microgrants you were just talking about to help students or communities onshore have access to the technology they might need to learn what's going on the vessel. Could you share a little bit about how to get that information?
Yes, I think, well, if you're a student that sailed on our vessel, actually, you could probably reach out to Alison right here and she will be able to help you with that. If you are an organization or an institution in an area where we are sailing for that kind of technology and that support, I would suggest that you email proposals@schmidtocean.org with that request, and we will be able to handle it from there. And
Excellent.
then I should also actually add, for those who are seeking the microgrants for dependent care, we will actually offer that once we've accepted the proposal and we know you're coming on board as a scientist. Is there any other, oh, maybe, do you want to talk, Alison? I'm going to turn the tables. Do you want to say anything about the publications support?
Sure. So we do support, as Jyotika mentioned, some funding for the open access portion of publishing your scientific results. And that process, you can email me, amiller@schmidtocean.org, and I am also on the proposals@schmidtocean.org email address, and we'll get that. So then I'll let you know the information that I need from you before we're able to support that funding. But typically it's once a scientist has come on board the vessel and they're ready to publish their results in a scientific publication. So sometimes that happens 1 or 2 years after you've sailed on board, but we're always willing to support the sharing of your scientific results. So please reach out. This morning, you gave an excellent overview of the first expedition on board Falkor 2, and I don't want to make you repeat the summary that you gave, but we did mention the amazing footage that we saw while we were on the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, including the shrimp party. And we have a question about how people can revisit that footage or any of the videos that they missed while the expedition was happening.
Yes, well, we have a Schmidt Ocean Institute YouTube channel, in case you've not yet discovered this. And on that channel is the entire live stream. You can go back and look at some old ones if you wish. There's 4K videos, compilation highlight videos. And then also we have a series of video weekly updates, which includes interviews with the scientists and others who are on board the vessel that come out during the expedition and during the cruise. And I do highly recommend that you go and look at the ones that were for this inaugural cruise, because they were really interesting. They include the science, they include what kind of technology was being used, how they were using it, as well as what they were looking for and what they actually found. So, and the shrimp party. So wonderful things.
Not to be missed.
No, not to be missed. And I see that Lisa has posted the link to the YouTube videos on our chat here. So thank you very much, Lisa.
Yes, and happy watching. There's some amazing footage on there if you haven't discovered it yet. Well, when you turn the question back on me about funding open access, we talked kind of about how we help scientists share their data, and funding publications is one of the ways, but could you talk about how SOI shares the data that it collects from the sensors embedded on Falkor 2?
Sure, yeah, so we also openly share our data. We submit those to data repositories, of course, which we're now calling data centers, because it's not just depositing the or repository for the data, it's also a way for people to access data as well. I mentioned this earlier as well, but we have a wonderful data solutions architect, and she, along with others at Schmidt Ocean Institute, have been working on a number of projects to process and bring that data to all of you in digestible forms. So, for example, if you want to see the ROV Sebastian data on a map, we've got what's called the Dive Vault on the SOI GitHub, and you can go and you can click on the icon for ROV Sebastian, and you'll see a little YouTube video footage, or rather video footage pop up for that dive. More recently, we've got the RV Falkor 2 live tracker, which is well, the name gives it away, really. Where is RV Falkor 2 live? It's a real-time tracker. So that shows where the vessel is, and also actually some of the data that's being collected on board, and that's all served up real time as well. So these are all being developed in-house. There's more to come throughout this year and on to future years. And then, of course, I'd also mention we're working externally with others. So one example is Mbari's FathomNet, which it gives us machine learning algorithms that you can use and apply to that video footage to automatically identify creatures or features on dive videos. And then that kind of technology, because there's so many, and the footage is hundreds of hours at this point. So to be able to identify creatures and features is a huge step forward if we can use machine learning techniques to do that, and algorithms to do that. And then that goes into things like the Ocean Vision AI. And so just speeds up that rate of discovery and understanding.
For sure, definitely makes our imagery more powerful when you can use AI tools on it. We talked some about the partnerships, MTS and National Geographic, that are helping us reach underrepresented communities or others that might be interested in coming on board when we move around the globe. But I was wondering if you could talk about some of our outreach partnerships that help us reach different sectors of the globe that might not necessarily have an interest in ocean sciences, such as our partnership with Necton.
Sure, yes. So with Necton, we are running a program called Ocean Rising, and the goal and the idea there is to bring the ocean to broader cultural avenues, such as fashion and food and music and sports and gaming and literature and news and media. So we actually started this about almost 3 years ago, I think now. And in 2021, we held a workshop and we released a white paper, Ocean Rising, which is on our Ocean Rising website. And then last year we held 2 workshops with Necton. One was on music and one was on fashion. And we're the only ocean people in the room. The rest are all experts in the music industry or experts in the fashion world, ranging from designers to magazine publications and so a whole host of people. And it really was brainstorming, how can we bring some of maybe the footage that we have, which is really amazing, to them, to their world, or how else can we talk about oceans or show oceans and in those arenas?
It sounds amazing. I'm looking at the siphonophore image behind us and dreaming up a siphonophore dress as you speak. So that's
It's
really
a
exciting.
really gorgeous blue as well. I think that would be
Yeah,
fantastic.
I think so too. Let's do it. Um, we've gotten a lot of questions and attention about the 10-year expeditions map that we released a few months ago now. It's already April, but I was wondering if you could talk about what happens after the 10 years that we have mapped out.
Yeah, after the 10 years, we will continue. So this is a 10-year vision so far, and it takes us just shy of the Pacific Ocean. So we're going to go, down around South America into the South Atlantic, and then around Africa into the Indian Ocean. And that will take us back to Australia in about 10 years, and on the Indian Ocean side. So at the end of this year, or actually rather early next year, we will add another box. So that map will be an ongoing 10-year vision, a rolling 10-year vision, if you like, and you can continue to apply. So I think once a year we'll release and add the next segment that we're thinking of working in.
Excellent. I'd just like to take the time to remind our participants to put some questions in the question and answer box at the bottom of your screen. And this morning, Jyotika, we got a lot of questions about Antarctica, how close we can get to the shoreline, how to apply for ship time in Antarctica. And I think there's a lot of community excitement about Falkor 2 going to that region. Could you talk a little bit about what our plans might be in Antarctica, how the community can apply to ship time, and how close we think we'll be able to get to the shoreline?
Yes, so this vessel, it's obviously bigger. I think everybody's well aware of that by now. It's 110 meters, but it has some amazing new capabilities that we didn't have on Falkor. And that includes the ability to go through 10 to 15 centimeters of sea ice. And, that might be a lot to some people, but in reality, that's just the first ice, the summer ice, very light. So we can go through that. We're not an icebreaker, so we're not going to be able to go through, like you see some of the other ships that are icebreakers go through heavy ice. But we are looking at being near and around Antarctica in the summer months, in the austral summer months. And so depending on how close we get to the coastline really depends on what that ice level is. And then I would really suggest, people submit their applications now. We're looking, I think, at the end of 2024 and into early 25 for our first round of going into Antarctica, and then probably towards the end of 28 and into 2029. So start working on your proposals and send them in so we can start reviewing and planning, because it does take, as anyone who's been there knows, a lot of planning.
Yes, it does. All right, well, I think we'll have time for one more question. We'll kind of stay on that cruise planning topic before we wrap things up. And we had a question about if a research team is quite small and maybe they wouldn't fill up the whole vessel, are they able to be paired with other multidisciplinary projects or other scientists? And also, kind of on the flip side of that, what's the maximum size a research team could come on board?
Yeah. So the vessel is bigger. We do have a lot more berth capacity. We're anticipating eventually growing into this vessel with about 40 scientists in the science party. And that doesn't include artists at sea or berths of opportunity, actually. So we can definitely bring on a lot more people. And then we are really looking for multidisciplinary projects, and our 7 areas of science that we're interested in or topics we're interested in are on our strategic framework website, and you can drill down into the sub areas that we're interested in. But there are many avenues for you to still participate. So you could submit at the expression of interest stage, and we will match make with others who may not have a full complement of scientists on board. Or if you need data to be collected, we can see if there are opportunities. Another avenue is once we've announced the cruise, you could reach out and see if there is a potential for collaboration between you and the chief scientist or one of the other scientists on board. And then we've also been quite successful in that remote participation, which I'd mentioned earlier. And we actually had that. So, for example, in Australia, we needed a fish expert, and there wasn't any on board. And but through our live stream and our remote capabilities, we actually had some who actively participated and assisted the team on board. So that way we build a community as well. So I do recommend reaching out, and we can discuss a variety of ways in which you can participate.
Excellent. And I think the best way to reach out would also be through that proposals@schmidtocean.org email address that Jyotika mentioned earlier. Well, thank you so much, Jyotika, for taking the time to answer everyone's questions. And thank you to our wonderful participants. I hope we have excited you and piqued your interest in getting involved with Schmidt Ocean Institute, either by checking out the YouTube highlights page of some of our studying imagery, hoping for a Siphonophore dress soon, or submitting your own expression of interest to come on board Falkor 2. So in about 15 minutes at 40 past the hour, we'll be hosting our next session with an opportunity to ask questions of Eric King about the vessel Falkor 2. And so we hope to see you then. And Jyotika, I'll let you have the final word on the wrap up.
Excellent. I was hoping for that, because there's one thing I really haven't covered or mentioned, and I really wanted to at least say, and that's one of the other new things that we've been doing is making short films and submitting them to film festivals. And so there's a couple, such as one's called The Art of Ocean Exploration, and that premiered at Alta Sea's Blue Hour 2, or we premiered Climate Under Pressure at COP26 in Glasgow a couple of years ago, on the opening day of COP26, actually. And we've been submitting them to film festivals. So, and actually, we've won a number of awards. They are lovely films. So I do recommend those, as well as I'm recommending other YouTube and other footage to see. But beyond that, I want to say thank you, Alison, and to everybody who's out there. I look forward to seeing you all join us as we embark on new adventures and catalyze the discoveries needed to understand our ocean, to sustain life, ensure the health of our planet, through this joint venture of impactful scientific research, through intelligent observation, technological advancement, and of course, the open sharing of information and public engagement. So, see you on board. Thank you.